Hi everybody, Jo here again. Thanks so much for joining me today. I hope you're keeping well and it's lovely to welcome you into my craft room again. Now today we're going to have a little look at using ink pads and creating some faux bleaching. And so we'll do a bit of chatting as we're going along. So if you want to grab your brew, make yourself comfy. And what I want to talk to you about today is when we have dye-based ink pads, so that's your Elements ink pads are dye-based, your oxides are dye-based, your Distress inks are dye-based, your Adirondack, they're an older one. I know a lady was asking recently why we don't use them. And yes, they are a dye-based ink pad if you've got them. Sometimes we sort of update our ink pads and ranges, but there's nothing wrong with using the ones you've already got. Now, I do apologise. Those of you that are seasoned crafters will know this, and I'm not going into great depth, but sometimes, especially when we have new crafters, it's nice to just remind us of certain things. And I'm afraid, you know me, I teach in a very, I just think it's a nice, easy way to remember things. So in my head, these ink pads have water. If it's a recipe, water's their main thing, as opposed to your permanent ink pads. So they won't move with water, they're permanent. So that's your archival, your VersaFine Clair. So we're not talking about those today. Those permanent ones, no, you're not being played with today, you've gone. So what I want to talk about is these ink pads that move with water. And when we take colour away, it's called faux bleaching. So years ago, there was a technique where you would have an inky background and paint with bleach and it would take the colour out. Well, obviously bleach isn't, it's not the ideal thing to be painting with, but somebody, and I wouldn't know who, this is a long time ago, obviously before my time, came up with the idea that if you actually painted with water, because these are water-based, it gives you the same effect. So we call it faux bleaching. Now, this means we can do loads and loads of things. So, for example, this. And what I want to show you today is just very simple techniques with stencils for creating backgrounds. So this is where I've just created the background and it's faux bleached. And this is a lovely, lovely way. I will warn you, it's not like where we stamp precise details. We get more of a watercolour type background, almost batik-y, a little bit like what you get on the gel press. And so it's great. And especially I know a few of you've got in touch and Mr. Mojo's not come back after his Christmas holidays. He's been a bit naughty. And this is a lovely thing to do, to play and create backgrounds like this. And then maybe you need that emergency card. This would be lovely for anything to do with water, wouldn't it? Underwater. Or just a general, I could imagine the Lilium stamp and then decoupaged on top of there. So I'll show you a little bit more what we're talking about. Now what I've done is I've already made myself a couple of backgrounds and I've very simply just got 3 colours of my oxide. And I know some of you like to know what they are. So Prize Ribbon is my deepest one, Mermaid Lagoon in the middle, and Faded Jeans at the top. And that's just those 3 to give me a nice blended background. And I just used my little sponges and created these backgrounds because we have had a video on blending, so you don't need to show me doing that. And they're very simply blended so that I know that when I add water, obviously I could add water splats, it's going to faux bleach. Now, what we can do, we've got 2 ways with our stencils. So I'm going to bring in my stencil, and this is the one. So if you were with me the other day, this is Abstract. I used it and I thought, oh, I love this. Why haven't I used it more? Now, with 2 things we can do here. We can put water through the stencil, which is what I've done here. And we get these areas faux bleach where the water goes. Or we can wet the stencil and then we will get the line art. So I'll show you the 2. And as I say, this is great fun. And when you think you've got so many different colours of your ink pads, you could blend backgrounds, practice your blending, but then all your stencils you've got. I'm going to have a piece of kitchen towel ready. Now, I'm going to just spritz some water. And again, this is one of those techniques, depending on how much water you use, depends on the result you get. So again, you can have fun and play and vary the amount of water. Don't think there was much there. Also, what you'll find is the deeper the colour of ink, the more it shows up. If you add too much water, it can leak underneath. And again, this is something you'll discover. So I'm just going to have a little look to see how we're doing. So I'm just going to put my kitchen towel on there, just to take a little bit of the excess off. Now, also, depending how long you leave the water on will depend on how much is faux bleached and the intensity of the colour. But because we're here, I'm going to lift this up. And already you can see that the pattern is starting to show there. So I'm going to put that to one side while we do the next one. So we'll just give that a wipe. I know we want it wet, but there's a little bit of ink on there, you know, that's lifted with the faux bleaching. So we'll just give it a bit of a wipe. Now the next one, we're going to spritz the stencil. So, sorry Eric, 2 ways of doing that. You can either spritz your stencil like I've just done, or put some water onto your craft mat and run your stencil through. And again, this one, straight down. And again, it will depend. If there's any areas you've missed, obviously you won't get the faux bleaching. But you know what? What you have to remember is we're making a background. So again, it's a lovely thing to play at because there's no right or no wrong. You know, if you had one of these created, say like here, I mean, I love the fact we've got different areas. But if, say, you hadn't got any water there, it doesn't matter, that would be an ideal place to stamp. You know, whatever background you get, you know, we're kind to ourselves. We just want to play and create. Now, if I bring this one back in, you can see how it's starting to show. And the longer it takes, and again, you'll pick out the areas, look. So let's have a little peep at this one, how we're doing. She says, I can't get hold of it. Now, again, we've not got a lot of pattern there. Let's just get my heat tool on this, see if I can speed it up a little bit. Just so I can show you, because you'll see as it starts to dry, the line art. So don't be disappointed at first. Just hang on in there. And let's just give this one. So you can have great fun creating these. And as you see, as it dries, you get more and more of the pattern coming through. So we get the difference between here we've faux bleached in between, and here we've faux bleached where the stencil is. Look at that area there. So as I say, think of all the stencils that you've got that you can do this with. All the different colours, all the backgrounds that you can make. Now, one little thing I did have a go at, it did occur to me, you know, we made the panel cards the other day. And again, if you missed that, maybe pop back and have a look. You could faux bleach in you could do the ghosting technique in the panel. So again, a little bit of ink blended, put your stencil. I made sure I masked off this area so I didn't spritz. Why not make a few of these? Different stencils, and then you're ready to add some stamping. I mean, you wouldn't need a lot for that, would you? And you'd have a beautiful design. Now, the other thing is, it works well with stamps as well. But again, it is a watercolour type effect we get. So I've just taken one of our lovely Lavinia tags here. This is the watercolour tags. And I've used the same colours, and I've just put myself a little bit of ink down And just quickly to show you, I've got one of our lovely stamps, and I think this is the thistle branch. And so many stamps would work well with this. Two ways of doing this. You can either spritz your stamp, I'm going to spritz it, or you can put some water on your mat and tap it in the water. Now again, depending on exactly how much water you've got on will vary. So again, don't be hard on yourself, it's not an exact science. And especially when we're just after a background. Now look at that. And no two will ever be the same. In fact, I think I like this one. This one, I'd obviously got quite a big water splodge there, but this one I think is, and do you know what? I'm just going to bring in my fan brush and just add some more little, again, a little bit more faux bleaching around the edge. And then just, let me clean this up. We'll just bring the heat tool just to do a little, speed it up a bit. So like I say, you've got your stamps that it works with, you've got your stencils that it works with. I tried to say the two together then, stamps and stencils comes out a bit funny, doesn't it? I'll just dry this from the back. Oh look, I put ink on the back, ready. I have to think about the back of things as well as the front. My lovely friend Anne Redfern, she taught me that the back has to be just as beautiful as the front. Attention to detail. So look at that for a background. Now for me, for a starting point, I think that's beautiful. And the last thing I just want to point out to you, before I let you go and have a really good play, our fabulous Mysticals are water-based too. So you know what that means, water-based, so we can do the same thing. So I've taken a tag here, and again, spritzed with my stencil. Now obviously it's not as easy to see this, it's shiny, but because it's water-based we can do the ghosting. So we can use our stencils on here, we could also use our stamp and get that ghosting. So I hope that's given you a little bit of inspiration today. So I think it would be lovely if you just got some card. Now I've used watercolour here and also multifarious, and just create yourself some lovely backgrounds and have a go at some ghosting. And I think I've got some lovely backgrounds there ready to stamp up. And if you look, even this one that you couldn't see very much before, look, as it dries. And as I say, it doesn't show up as much where it's pale, but definitely there's some coming through there. And you'll find some stencils you'll prefer the effect rather than others. But you see, for me, I mean, I just think that's lovely. I really do. So you take care. I hope you have a go at this, and especially the stamping. Have a play. Oh, look. See, I'm suddenly thinking that actually... Right, stop. I need to stamp some of these up. It's so exciting. So I hope you have a play. And remember, use your mysticals as well. Oh, and one lady messaged, just very quickly before I go. When the mysticals are new, we've got a label on, look, she wasn't sure how much water to add. It actually tells you add water to this level. And because it's the mica powder, again, it will settle at the bottom. So just give it a gentle shake like that before you spray. Gentle shake like that, that's all you need to do, just to get that mica, and then spritz away. And I do clean my nozzle just because of the mica. But as I say, I'm going to go and faux bleach this one. I think I might stamp on this one. Or do I do a stencil? Questions. Anyway, shall we have another brew before we stamp these up? I think we should. What you on? Coffee? Tea? Hot chocolate? Or maybe beefy bovril? What do you think? Anyway, you take care. I'm off to put the coffee machine on. Have fun. And that's the main thing, please. Just have fun. Enjoy your crafting. That's what it's all about. And that's what we're here to do. Just spread the love of Lavinia. Love and hugs from me. See you soon. Bye for now.